Australia is home to beautiful beaches, summer vibes, as well as a quality education system. Every year, thousands of students choose Australia as their study destination. Australia is the 12th largest economy in the world, which makes it the perfect place for lucrative jobs as well. Australia is esteemed for its quality of life, high Human Development Index, health, education, and much more. We have devised a video interesting facts about Australia that will amaze you. 90% of Australians live on the coast. The large deserts of Central Australia mean that the vast majority of the population live on the shores of this enormous country. The large cities of Perth, Sydney, and Melbourne are iconic places to visit, with buzzing centres and a multitude of beaches, from the sands of Bondi to the surf of Trigg. Outside of the major hubs, there are hundreds of smaller beach towns where you can appreciate Australia's beautiful coastline. Tasmania has the cleanest air in the world. The island of Tasmania is the ideal spot to experience the great outdoors, with air as clean as Antarctica. Around 1/3 of the state is a national park or World Heritage protected. It is a walker's paradise, with trails and walkways winding over the whole island, where the coastal paths reveal impressive views over Wineglass Bay and the Bay of Fires. If walking isn't your cup of tea, enjoy kayaking, mountain biking, and exploring the island's caves. The wildlife is an extension of the unique animals of Australia, where the eastern quoll, now considered extinct on the mainland, are commonly sighted in the fertile farmland of Tasmania. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest ecosystem in the world. The Great Barrier Reef is the pride and joy of Australia, made up of nearly 2,500 individual reefs and visible from space. It's stretched halfway down the eastern coast of the country, meaning there are plenty of places to use as jumping-off points to explore the kaleidoscopic coral. Snorkel with sea turtles on the Great Barrier Reef, Travel Nation. Cairns is the most famous city to begin a trip out to the reef, but Townsville, Port Douglas, and Airlie Beach all have great beaches and various tours that can take you out to enjoy the reef. Snorkeling and diving amongst the colorful fish and turtles that make the Great Barrier Reef their home is sure to be a highlight of any trip to Australia. Australia has 160 spoken languages. Australia has 160 spoken languages. Although Australia has no official language, the considered official language is English. The majority of the population speaks English. An awesome Australia fact: Aboriginal people arrived in Australia about 50,000 years ago. It's believed they traveled from Asia across land bridges that were exposed when sea levels were lower. The hardy Aborigines have learned to live in the harsh conditions of the outback. Dutch explorers first landed in Australia in 1606, and the British began to settle there in 1788. Many settlers were criminals sent to live in Australia as punishment. For a short time, the newcomers lived peacefully with the Aboriginal people. But soon, fighting broke out over who owned the land. In 1851, gold was discovered in Australia. A rush to find riches came as a result, bringing thousands of new immigrants to the country. By 1859, 6 separate colonies existed, and in 1901 these colonies joined to form the Federation of Australia. Canberra was decided as the capital city of Australia because in bygone times, Sydney and Melbourne couldn't stop arguing who should get it, and to be honest, the rivalry about who is better city continues to this day. Australia banned all semi-automatic rifles and pump-action shotguns. Gun laws in Australia are mainly within the jurisdiction of Australian states. In the last 20 years, several high-profile gun violence has been recorded. The federal government coordinated more restrictive firearms legislation with all state governments. Gun laws were largely aligned in 1996 by the National Firearms Agreement. Finally, Australia bans all semi-automatic rifles and pump-action shotguns. There are different time zones in Australia. The time zones in Australia are the Western Standard Time, Central Standard Time, and Eastern Standard Time. Australia's standardization of time started in 1892. The representatives accepted the recommendation of the 1884 International Meridian Conference to use the Greenwich Mean Time. Australia's first policemen were criminals. The first cops in Australia were a group of convicts. Laying down the rules set by Governor Arthur Phillip, the first fleet arrived in New South Wales in January 1788. The Marines of the Royal Navy were in charge of law enforcement. The Great Emu War broke out in Australia. The Emu War of Australia is the war of man versus the birds. Emus are very big birds with heights at an average of no less than 5.7 feet, the second largest living birds. They have long legs and necks with short wings, less than 8 inches. When the emus grew in numbers, they started to wreak havoc on crops, and that started the Great Emu War of Australia. Australia has 21 of the world's 25 most venomous snakes. Here are some, such as inland taipan venom, eastern brown snake, western brown snake, mainland tiger snake, and coastal taipan. An average of 70 tourists overstay their visa in Australia every week. Tourists in Australia tend to overstay. Reports have shown that most of them are Malaysians and Chinese, while the Americans, British, and Indian also adds a small part of it. The department said that it will not detain the overstaying tourists if they work with the government to clear up their cases. Australia has pink lakes. Pink Lake, Australia. Image by AussieOC on Wikimedia Commons. Western Australia has several pink lakes such as Lake Hillier and Hutt Lagoon. The reason for its pinkish color is a subject that is not fully understood by scientists yet, but they are guessing it has to do with the existence of the Dunaliella salina microalgae. Australia exports 10,000 camels every year. The country exports about 10,000 camels to the Middle East by Australia mainly for their meat, worth $2 million Australian dollars. Australia first exported the camels in Brunei and Malaysia. But it is the Middle East that grabs more market share today with high rising demand. The Australian election TV debate gave way for the reality show MasterChef. An Australian election TV debate was rescheduled to give way for the season finale reality cooking show MasterChef. The debate is usually at 7:30 p.m. with the same time slot of MasterChef. More than 4 million Australians were expected to watch MasterChef, so the election TV debate moved 1 hour earlier and started at 6:30 p.m. Christmas is summertime in Australia. Christmas in Australia comes at the beginning of summer. The summer holidays start from mid-December to early February. Thus, some people go camping during Christmas. Since it is so hot during Christmas time, there are often massive bushfires across the country. However, there is not much difference in terms of celebrations. Consider living there, or considering going as a tourist, in a country that is so diverse with its people and culture that carries Australia. We have come to the end of our video today. If you want more such videos, you can subscribe to my channel and give a like to my video.